Your money is fragile until it reaches a tipping point. Then it becomes virtually indestructible. Sure, the specific numbers may shift, but the bedrock strategies for bulletproof wealth, they never change. These strategies are universal. Today, we're breaking down 5 core methods the truly wealthy use to make their money virtually untouchable. Number 1, diversification. This isn't just about different investments. It's about fundamentally separating your financial liabilities. Want the core secret to bulletproof wealth? Never let your assets exist as a single vulnerable entity, ever. Smart money gets split across multiple entities, different asset classes, and separate legal structures. This creates clear boundaries, so if one piece takes a hit, it cannot collapse your entire financial empire. Most people, though, when they hit a financial snag, it's a total collapse. Everything just crumbles. Your job, your home, your lifestyle, your credit score, all linked. One breaks and the entire house of cards collapses. Your job, your house, your credit, your entire lifestyle. For most people, these aren't just linked, they're dangerously intertwined. One weak link, and the whole system comes crashing down. But building true wealth, that requires a completely different approach. Instead, your wealth is strategically split into independent parts. If one asset falls, the other stands strong, completely unfazed. Imagine your business could go under tomorrow, and your personal assets remain completely untouched. A lawsuit might hit one entity, tax, without so much as a ripple impacting your other assets. An investment could crash to zero and you won't be forced to liquidate anything elsewhere. The goal? No single asset should ever become an existential threat to your entire financial life. This is what we call true structural isolation. It's not just basic diversification, it's a completely different level of protection. This goes far deeper than simply spreading your money around. Let me show you a prime example of how this truly works. One critical isolation involves separating who actually owns your assets from who takes the operational risk. This is foundational. Think about it. Those who control serious wealth are rarely directly involved in the day-to-day operations. They insulate themselves. Signing contracts personally, directly owning every single asset, that's not just a risk, it's a wide-open target. Your investments and businesses must operate through legal structures. This isn't optional, it's what creates that essential wall between you and the daily operational risks. If a business fails, it goes down alone. Your personal assets? Completely protected. You don't go bankrupt right along with it. But how does this work in the real world? Imagine you built up a substantial real estate portfolio. You wouldn't own all those properties directly, not if you're smart. Instead, you'd structure it strategically, something like this. Here's the setup. A holding company owns the properties. Then, crucially, each individual property is leased out to its own separate operating entity, or LLC. These operating entities handle all the day-to-day business. And you own the holding company at the top. That holding company owns all the assets, which are then rented out to those separate entities. Do you see the buffer, that layer of protection we've just built? What happens inside those operating businesses is no longer your direct personal concern. Now, let's play out a scenario, a major liability claim. A major lawsuit hits that operating company, they get found liable. But guess what? It's BI liability, not yours personally. One investment fails. So what? Your financial life isn't over, your personal wealth isn't wiped out, and your other ventures aren't dragged down with it. The reason? Your personal assets are separate. That failed project gets replaced, while your core business keeps running, uninterrupted. What if everything was tied together? One single mistake could tank your entire empire. That's a gamble you simply cannot afford, called structural isolation. Its sole purpose? To contain risk. A failure hits one project, not your entire life savings. Think most money problems come from bad decisions? Think again. What you truly need is pressure immunity. They happen because you run out of time. A bad investment or a tough year isn't fatal on its own. This means taking calculated risks, absolutely, but always protecting your core financial foundation. Second, it's about building financial pressure immunity, because most money problems, they are disasters on their own. They become disasters when you simply run out of time. That ticking clock, that looming deadline. When you're forced to act, even if it's the absolute worst moment for your finances. This is exactly where genuine wealth truly changes the game. You're living paycheck to paycheck. Your life runs on a fixed clock. Fixed income, fixed bills, no pause button when things go south. If you're finding this helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. But wealth? It's built specifically to rip that clock right off the wall. You can't avoid problems. They are going to hit eventually, always. Here's the reality of debt. Loans don't care about your problems. Miss a payment and there's no pause button, no mercy. Wealth isn't about avoiding problems. That's a myth. Problems will always hit you, but true wealth removes the ticking clock from those problems. So what's the actual goal? Build enough wealth so those inevitable curveballs don't come with crushing deadlines attached. When your wealth takes a hit, you don't panic. Stock prices tank, you're not forced to sell at a loss. Income dries up, no panic selling your assets. The market flips, you got time to wait it out, not react in fear. Here's the critical truth. Most people believe financial collapse comes because something loses value. Wrong. Financial collapse happens because you're forced to sell something at the absolute worst time. It's not that your investments suddenly went bad. It's that you have no other choice but to liquidate. Wealth prevents this trap. It builds a buffer so no single problem can ever force your hand. And investment tanks, you can hold it. A whole year goes sideways, you can ride it out. When the market goes absolutely wild, most people panic. But if you're not desperate, you don't have to play that game. Waiting isn't just a virtue. It's a brutal, strategic advantage in the world of investing. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You can only afford to wait if you're not drowning in financial pressure. We call this time arbitrage. It's how time fundamentally rewrites the rules of money. A decision that looks absolutely terrible right now. Why? Could be a stroke of genius over the long haul. Dangerous, yes, even catastrophic today, but completely irrelevant a decade from now. So it's not about predicting what happens. It's about your capacity to outlast it. That's the brutal advantage of time arbitrage. Most people are trapped in short-term thinking. Every single decision is about getting through next month, not building wealth 5 or 10 years out. But true wealth isn't built in a sprint. It's when you finally force time to work for you. This kind of wealth doesn't demand instant gratification. It thrives on slow outcomes, handles brutal recoveries. And even the quiet, agonizing years where it feels like absolutely nothing is changing. When your timeline is short, every market dip feels like a personal attack. A minor correction, suddenly it's total failure. That immediate fear transforms a temporary drop into a permanent loss. And fear, that's the fastest way to make a stupid investment decision. But what if you looked at it differently? With a long-term view, those same problems shrink. Time smooths out almost every mistake you make. If you've ever put a single dollar into investments, you've definitely heard this phrase. It's called zooming out. It's your secret weapon for leveraging time in your financial favor. Burst talking? Zooming out is exactly what it implies. Looking at your money from a much broader, long-term perspective. Your investments are for decades, not months. Every single decision you make needs to be with that distant horizon in mind. Short-term losses? You don't just accept them, you expect them. Because over decades, those blips almost never matter. This is precisely why real wealth survives all the mistakes. You don't need perfect predictions if you've got time on your side. You'll have the time to recover. You don't need to time the market if you're not rushing for a quick buck. That gut feeling telling you to panic over every market blip, you don't have to react instantly. Building real wealth isn't about speed. Time is your greatest asset here. Let it quietly do the heavy lifting. Now, let's talk rock-solid protection. Big institutions, they have an entire team behind them. We're talking lawyers, bankers, insurers, advisors. This isn't a premium package. This level of support is standard for large assets. Stability isn't a preference for these institutions. It's a necessity, especially when you're managing massive, long-term wealth. That relationship isn't just important. It's paramount. Far more vital than any rigid, short-term rule. The game changes. It's not about immediate collection anymore. It's about preserving and growing value, not for a few years, but for decades. Which is precisely why major wealth problems rarely blow up without a warning. They're spotted early, discussed early, and fixed early. That's the undeniable institutional difference. Insurance, for example, operates on this exact principle. Consider losses that would absolutely devastate an individual. An insurance company, a single claim is routine. The cost is spread out, the impact contained. Your personal financial crisis, for a massive system, that's just a manageable event. This is how big institutions work. They identify risks early, assign responsibility, and limit the damage. When something goes wrong, the problem is contained. It doesn't spread. It doesn't infect everything else. Miss a $5,000 loan payment? That's your problem. The bank will absolutely come for you. But if a $50 million client runs into trouble, suddenly, that's the bank's problem. Huge assets are involved. Relationships span years. Aggressive enforcement would destroy more than they'd ever recover. That would be completely irrational. The goal fundamentally shifts. It's no longer about immediate collection, but preserving stability for everyone. Forget the quick wins. Your actual goal is preserving stability. It's about protecting every single thing you've built. From the outside, it looks absolutely rigged. Completely unfair, doesn't it? But from the inside, it's just big institutions being rational, trying to minimize their own damage. You make a small mistake, boom, automatic penalties. You cause a massive problem. They don't send default notices. They call a meeting, just discussions. No fixed demands, only revised terms. Hard deadlines, they become extended timelines. Why? It's all about protecting the underlying value. Once the scale is big enough, strict enforcement just isn't the safest option. Flexibility takes its place, because at a certain point, strict rules simply stop applying. All right, let's talk about diversification by failure mode. This is where you level up. Most people think diversification just means owning a bunch of different things. Everyone tells you to diversify different stocks, different assets, different industries. And sure, that's partially correct. But here's the one crucial detail absolutely everyone misses. Because it doesn't matter how many different stocks you own if the entire market tanks. Simply diversifying by labels is a surefire way to get wiped out. The truly wealthy? They diversify by failure mode. They understand risk at a much deeper level. A failure mode portfolio means no single catastrophic event can ever completely shatter your investments. What does that look like in practice? You could have a cash-flowing business built to thrive during inflation, or long-term real estate that only benefits from population growth. Liquid financial assets specifically designed to respond to market cycles. Less conservative fixed income instruments built for pure unshakable stability. These aren't just different assets on paper. They're designed to fail differently. Hey, inflation spikes? Some thrive. Others? They're simply left in the dust. Growth stalls, and some investors barely flinch. Others? They crash and burn. Markets panic, and suddenly everything's on sale. But who's brave enough to buy? You don't expect everything to break all at once, do you? Which also means you can't win every single time. And frankly, avoiding losses when you're already ahead, that's far more critical than chasing tiny extra gains. Your goals shift. It's no longer growth at any cost. Now, it's pure survival every single day. Dodging a huge loss now matters 1,000 times more than snagging some tiny extra gain. Because time, plain and simple, does all the heavy lifting. Real wealth isn't built on one lucky shot. Instead, it's built by staying in the game, intact, long enough for small, consistent advantages to truly explode. The truly wealthy don't waste time obsessing over chasing bigger returns. Their entire focus is on one thing, protecting what they've already built. The brutal truth, no more excuses, it's time to act. This fight isn't over, not until you win, so keep showing up. We're not going anywhere.